Question 65. Do the Homo fossils found in natural history museums represent the ancestor of modern humans on the evolutionary scale? First, museums of fossils or museums of living organisms do not display any fossils of Homo at all, as this is prohibited. Homo fossils are stored in steel cabinets and are not seen by anyone, not even the specialized scientists. What is displayed in museums and shown to scientists are only artificial molds. A cast resembles the fossil and is not the fossil itself, keeping the original fossils in this manner and preventing their display to the public. This is because all the discovered Homo fossils cannot fill a car trunk. They are extremely rare. These fossils represent a national treasure, and if you found even one bone of a Homo species, you could literally sell it for tens of millions of pounds. This leads us to a major problem. How could a living creature from the various Homo species have dominated the Earth for millions of years, as proponents of the theory of evolution claim, and yet there are no fossils of it in every country? How can all the fossils of previous Homo species not fill a car trunk? And the more surprising thing is that of all discovered Homo fossils, there is not a single one that represents an ancestor of humans, and they are incomplete and scarce fossils. And therefore even the proponents of the theory themselves are in great doubt about it. There are about 6,500 species of apes on our land, most of which are extinct. And through the discovery of some fossils of these species, proponents of the theory of evolution wander with their imagination before realizing that these fossils belong to extinct species of apes, nothing more. The alleged pre-human Homo species fossils are extremely scarce and do not fill a car trunk. And upon investigation, we either discover that they are an extinct type of ape, or we discover that they are humans of our species exactly without any difference. A prime example of this is the Homo habilis fossil discovered in Tanzania. Proponents of the theory of evolution claim that this type of fossil represents the ancestor of current humans. The reality is that what was discovered from the fossil, it is part of the skull bones and part of the foot bones. That's all there is to it. After years of claiming that this fossil represents an ancestor of modern humans, today it has become clear to many proponents of the theory themselves that the Homo habilis is just another type of African ape, as it walks on all fours and not on 2 feet. This is according to evolution. Bernard Wood, a professor of human origins at George Washington University, who spent years studying the Homo habilis fossil, Bernard Wood says the Homo habilis fossils lack some of the important features you might expect to see in the first member of the human genus. Therefore, it leads us to the conclusion that the Homo habilis, it may not be suitable as a candidate for being the first member of the human genus as initially depicted. Homo habilis is a type of African ape and has no relation to the human genus, as proponents of the theory of evolution tried to portray in The Beginning, which led proponents of the theory of evolution to say that Homo habilis represents an ancestor of modern humans, is the use of stones by Homo habilis. But it is well known today that chimpanzees also use these same stones. But what captures my attention in this topic is the use by proponents of the theory of evolution of promotional images of Homo habilis fossils like these. And my question here is, how do the discovered parts of the Homo habilis skull and part of the foot transform into a complete being with its family? In fact, this is a game played by proponents of the theory of evolution that they use. Always, any small bones discovered? They immediately create a complete imagination through it that serves the theory, drawing a creature with features between an ape and a human, claiming it was the fossil's shape when it was alive, but it turns out that the bones of Homo habilis are actually ape bones. So what is the place of this drawn image now from? Parsing? They are worthless images, a fake image. And the other question that arises is, how did the proponents of the theory imagine the creature's shape, hair, and body features from part of the skull bones? Then the most important question is, how did they draw the eye color as white just like humans? It is known that all apes have dark brown eye color, unlike the color of the human eye. So how did they draw the Homo habilis eye in white? It's a manipulative attempt to resemble a human form. But is this science? Is this perception based on evidence or clues in the discovered fossils? It is a matter of assumption, illusion, and imagination, And due to these unscientific and dishonest methods, believers in the theory in the West have slowly begun to lose confidence in the theory, and paleontologists who advocate the theory of evolution always rely on teams of artists. And the artists, where the paleontologist puts forth the concept in his mind that mostly serves his theory, and then the artist draws what he wants. The ultimate victim is the poorly discovered bone fragments that have nothing to do with the drawings. The second victim is the minds of the young people who believe in these drawings. Several decades ago, paleontologists discovered a molar and decided that it belonged to one of the early humans. It was named the Nebraska man molar, and perhaps this molar is the most famous in history. The Nebraska man was given a new scientific name, Hesperopithecus Harold Cookie, and an image was created for these early humans. The supposed image of Nebraska man was drawn based on this tooth. The discoverer. Imagine, a whole human is drawn from a discovered tooth, and it didn't stop there. The family was drawn with the wife and kids. The whole family's shape was imagined from a tooth, and 5 years after this amazing and valuable discovery, there was a surprise. It turned out the tooth belonged to a type of wild pig. It is a pig's tooth. It was later officially recognized that Nebraska man was just a fiction and that Hesperopithecus Harold Cookie was a naive illusion. Around the middle of the year 2021, a major fossil discovery was announced by some young Egyptians, where they discovered the bones of an ancient whale they named Phyomycetes anubis. Researchers assumed that this type of whale had 4 legs and asked artists to draw the imagined picture. The artists indeed drew this picture. But the question here is, did these researchers discover the 4 legs of the whale among the fossil bones? And the answer is no. Did they discover even one whale leg? The answer is no. All that was discovered was the skull, 2 vertebrae, and 2 ribs. Based on the skull, the 2 vertebrae, and the 2 ribs, it was imagined that the whale had 4 legs. But where are the legs? Why was there an assumption that the whale fossil had 4 legs? This concept was primarily constructed to support the theory of evolution that dictates this hypothesis. They backed this concept based on evidence that was surprisingly flimsy and superficial. One of the 2 discovered vertebrae in the fossil had an extra bony protrusion in the neural spine. The additional bony protrusion in this form is found in terrestrial mammals. Based on this evidence, it was assumed that this is an amphibious whale living on land with 4 legs. The problem with the theory of evolution is that it is based on imaginations and assumptions, and these imaginations and assumptions are built on very flimsy evidence to serve this hypothesis. And there is no problem with this being an amphibious whale with 4 legs. But where is the evidence? Then if we assume that this whale has 4 legs, does this mean that there is a type of whale that evolved into another type? Do not draw an arrow between one animal and another, and it says this species transitioned to that species. This arrow drawn from one animal to another is just a conceptual leap. Thus, we say to the proponents of the theory, provide evidence before believing. What strikes a person about the alleged whale evolution is that this idea is strange and hardly suitable even for children. The notion of an animal with 4 legs starting to fuse its hind legs and turning them into a fin, with the nose rising upwards to finally transform a whale. Scientifically, this idea requires an extraordinary miracle that the age of the universe does not allow to achieve this. You need approximately 50,000 body changes for this amphibian creature to turn into a whale. For example, the cerebellum needs a complete change. The respiratory system requires a comprehensive change. At each stage, we need millions of deformed intermediate species with each change. The result, which we all know, is that there are neither millions nor even a single one of these intermediate creatures. We have no problem with there being an amphibious whale with 4 legs. But how do we insert it into the myth of evolution drawings and then draw arrows between one animal and another? These arrows between animals rely on blind faith without evidence. To transition from one animal to another, we need millions of intermediate species. We also need thousands of times the age of the universe, as we will explain now. In a significant study published in the International Journal of Genetics to support the theory of evolution, the study proved that we need to fix 2 beneficial mutations in a generation. In small insects, we need a time spanning several million years, while in humans, we need more than 100 million years. 100 million years for establishing two beneficial mutations. This was in a study originally conducted to defend the theory of evolution and respond to its critics and skeptics. Do you know how many mutations exist between humans and the alleged common ancestor? There are 60 million mutations. So if you calculate 60 million mutations in 100 million years for every two mutations, you literally need thousands of times the age of the universe for a single new species to appear. Evolution says it's wrong and impossible. Evolution doesn't work like that. 1985, the Australian atheist and biologist Michael Denton wrote his famous book, Evolution, A Theory in Crisis. And after 30 years, that is, in 2015, Denton wrote his second book, Evolution, Still a Theory in Crisis. And Denton confirmed that the issues with the theory are becoming more complex over time. There are true gaps between each species of living organisms. Therefore, the atheist Darwinists Jerry Fodor and Massimo Piatelli Palmerini wrote a book entitled, Where Did Darwin Go Wrong? In the introduction, it stated, this is not a book about God or intelligent design or the creationist doctrine, as neither of us believes in any of these things, and both of us claim to be complete atheists. Atheism is tinged with the color of atheism. We thought it best to clarify this from the start because our main argument in the book is that there may be a very serious problem with the theory of natural selection. Evolution theory. There is not a single direct piece of evidence for the emergence of species through evolution, as stated by Lynn Margulis, the American biologist and Carl Sagan's wife. Therefore, Ernst Chain, a Nobel laureate, says it is difficult to describe the theory of evolution as a theory. It can hardly be called a theory, for the theory actually lacks evidence, as acknowledged by everyone who has delved deep into it, as it only has hypotheses and conjectures. In addition to all of the above, there is a serious ethical problem with the concept of having multiple types of humans. The idea of different types of humans has led to the killing of 1/10 of the world's population and caused the greatest genocides in the century. The idea of the existence of different types of humans and consequently superior and inferior types in superior and inferior races. This evolutionarily means that the superior race has the right to exterminate the inferior race on treating them as animals. This idea led to 2 world wars. Nazi camps and human incineration ovens emerged, and the Action T4 camp appeared, where more than 250,000 people were killed, considering them not human. Human rights, human dignity, and human values. These things do not fall under the realm of nature for atheists to manipulate, assuming that humans are of various races, leading to lives being lost due to their absurd assumptions. Even the word human is a metaphysical term that does not belong to this world. Therefore, if religion is removed and materialistic views and atheistic assumptions appear, then all types of ethnic cleansing, survival of the fittest, and annihilation of humans as if they were not humans will prevail. And in the final research issue that not a single evolutionist has answered remains, how can a living creature from different Homo species have dominated the Earth for millions of years as evolutionists claim? And yet, there are no fossils, for example, in tens of thousands, or hundreds, or even in tens. In fact, there is not a single correct fossil that can be referred to as a type of Homo. How is it that all previous Homo fossils wouldn't fill the trunk of a car? And how is it that all these fossils, without a single exception, are either of apes, extinct, or remains of ordinary humans just like us? There are no ancestors of humans among the fossils, nor any of this nonsense. Humans appeared suddenly, and this is the truth revealed to us every day by the inadequacy of paleontology and discoveries of molecular biology. The theory of evolution will remain a dream without a single credible piece of evidence, not in living organisms nor in humans. And that's why proponents of the theory try to ensure its popularity among people consistently. This is also why scientific debates about it are still being held in universities, the world, and we still need to make adjustments to the theory with each new discovery. This is conclusive evidence of the theory's lack of even a correct scientific framework, as all the theory's concepts, without exception, are merely abstract mental interpretations. Actually, if all the evidence of the theory were gathered and presented to an unbiased philosopher of science, they would loudly say, "Stop this nonsense immediately."